Hi, welcome. Here's a little video on some more music theory. This one I'm focusing on intervals in a major key. We've got a couple of different interval types in a major key, and I'll be expecting that you have a basic understanding of triple clef notes for this video and have some understanding or a system in place to work out key signatures and know a little bit about accidentals. So let's get into this. So over here I've got a bit of a starting platform to help us with this discussion. So I've got my middle C here, and an interval we should really start off with is a distance between two or more notes. So I can have my middle C here, but if I put any of these notes above it, I'd be creating an interval between those two notes. So it's the sort of the number distance, and it has a fancy name to go along with that. Okay, so we're going to be doing the types of intervals in a major key. So I'm going to be doing notes from C in the key of C major. Okay, now in the key of C major, you have no sharps or flats, and I tend to use the circle of fifths as a useful tool to help me with that one. Okay, let's move that one out of the way. So let's add some intervals. So the first interval or distance from C that we're going to have is C to C, which might seem a little bit strange to some people, but C to C is an interval. You can have a situation where you might have one trumpet player playing a C and another trumpet player playing the same C. Although it's the same sound, we classify it as an interval, and we'll get into the name of that one in a minute. The next one, let's put the next note in. So I'm just going to just above it, and I've got C to D. If I keep going up the C major scale, I'll create my next interval, another interval, another interval, another interval, and then my last interval. Okay, so every distance between C up the C major scale, we can create all of these different intervals. Okay, so next, let's get into what these intervals are called. So we'll move over to this one. Here I've labelled a few of these ones. So the first interval I've got here, so C to C, is what we call a perfect unison. I'm going to skip a couple of these and go to this one. I've got C to F, so C, D, E, F. I've got my perfect fourth. C to G is a distance of a fifth and a perfect fifth. And then I'm going to skip a few more and go to the last one. I've got C to the next C, which is a distance of 8 notes, which is our perfect octave. And within any major key, if you've got the root note playing to the next one, that's our unison. We've got our fourth, our fifth, and an octave. And so every major key you'll have these perfect intervals in it. Let's fill in the gaps. So the intervals between those, we've got there. You'll notice they've all got the same initial type of name attached to it. So they're all major intervals, and they have the number associated with that. So I've got my C to D, which is the distance of a second, the C to E, distance of a third, C to A, the distance of a sixth, and the C to B, which is the distance of the major seventh. And all of these are major intervals. So within a major key, you only really have your perfect intervals and your major intervals. This will be really useful bit of information when I look at the minor intervals, so stay tuned for that particular video. Let's put this in a different context. So let's move over to my next tab. We're going to be looking at creating these intervals in the key of D major. So let's think about that key for a moment. Let's bring back my circle of fifths. And in here, on the outside of the circle of fifths, we've got our major keys. If you want to know a little bit more about studying the circle of fifths, check out one of my other videos. So we've got D over here, and it's got two sharps. Okay, so let's put in those two sharps up the front here. Oh, there we go. Technology is letting me down. So I've got the two sharps in there, and in the same way we did the C major, we can do the same thing here. So my first interval I'm going to create is going to be my unison interval. So let's put that in very easily there. My next interval will be a second up, so D to E. And just a reminder before I do the next one, our sharps back here, we've got the F sharp and C sharp. So my next third is going to be D, E, F sharp. And the F sharp is taken care of with the key signature there. My next fourth will be D, E, F, G. Perfect fifth will take us to the A. The sixth to the B. And the seventh, remember we've got our C sharp, will be a C sharp. And then our octave will be the same letter name, so the D again. Okay, so then I've got all of my intervals again in a major key. Okay, we've got our perfect intervals, we've got our major intervals. What happens if we didn't have a key signature? What would this look like? So let's go back over to that key signature. Being computer technology, if I delete the key signature, we've got these sharps in front of the relevant note. So if you're having to notate this as a task with a key signature, make sure you've got up the front, and that'll be relevant for all of the notes needed. If you don't use a key signature, make sure you're putting the sharps in front of the relevant notes. It's really important. Otherwise, it's going to change the type of interval. Okay, so if you're using notes from a major key, make sure you use all the correct sharps and flats. On that, let's try the same thing but with a flat key. So here I've got set up my B flat, so I'm going to look at the key of B flat. So let's bring over our circle of fifths again. In the key of B flat we have two flats. So let's put those in. So we've got those, and you'll notice as soon as I put that in, it's not necessarily, when you've got a key signature, to put the B flat in front of the note. Okay, so let's put those notes in again. So my first one was unison, so let's put the same note in. The next one was a second, so B flat to C. Next one was B flat to D, B flat to E flat, and the E flat and the B flat are taken care of with the key signature. The B flat to F is our fifth, the B flat to G, B flat to A, and B flat to B flat. Get that one correct there. Okay, so now we've got all of our intervals with our perfect intervals and major intervals with a key signature. Again, let's delete that key signature and see what this looks like as a scale with accidentals. There we go. So now I've got my B flat in front of those notes. I've got the B flat, although it looks a little bit strange, is actually in front of the B note rather than the C note. So just be careful when you're notating these with pen and paper that you're getting the flat symbol in front of the correct note. You could also put the C on this side of the note. Just don't try and stack them above each other. When you're doing a second, have it just off from each other. Here we've got the B flat and the D. The B flat and E flat are both labelled nice and clearly. The F for the fifth, and so on up to the octave, making sure you're labelling every note that needs the accidental there. Okay, so hopefully you've been able to pick up on a few interesting things to do with intervals in a major key, that you've only got your perfect intervals and your major intervals. If you found this useful, please definitely tick the subscribe button, because I'll be doing a few more theory videos. And don't forget to comment, ask some questions if you still need some further help with clarification with these sorts of things. And thank you. Goodbye.